Alrighty. Go on if you want to start.
Yep. All right. So welcome to the We Youth Town Hall, everyone. My name is Kawan, and I will be one of your hosts today. Today's topic is economic equality. We will discuss how today's youth can secure their bag.
Hello, my name is Elijah. I will be your co-host. This town hall is a place for young people to discuss issues that we want the next mayor to focus on, and for the New York City youth agenda. So let's just slide one.
All right. Just want to give you guys a quick note. This session is being recorded and will be available on YouTube and the Youth Town Hall webpage immediately following this live stream.
All right. So the community guidelines we have up here, we got community guidelines. What is economic? Oh wait, be respectful to one another. Mm-hmm. Have an open mind. Feel safe to share our thoughts. We're gonna not judge anybody, and then we're gonna enforce ELMO, which stands for enough. Let's move on. If you have a question, drop it out in chat in all caps.
All right. So now moving on. What is economic equality? The Youth Advisory Council came together and we've created a definition that speaks to us. Did you know that youth in low-income communities from ages 16 to 24 have the highest rates of unemployment? Aside from the barriers of violence, crime, food, deserts, and failing schools, poverty is the precursor to all of these social determinants that block young people from low-income communities from success. How can young people get out of the hood if there isn't an abundance of opportunities to do so? The transition from childhood to adulthood is not an easy one. It comes with many responsibilities and can be very tough if you are underprivileged or misguided. How do you guys feel about this? What are your thoughts, Elijah? You guys can drop it in the comments as well.
So my thoughts are, I totally agree with the information we got with, and I didn't actually know about low income communities, so I'm glad that the information showed us that. So back in December, the last town hall was focused on equity in education. If you didn't see it, you could go to DYCD's YouTube page to watch it. We spoke about our concerns with education and helped those with few recommendations for the next mayor. The top 3 recommendations for youth agenda will be youth voice in school programming and funding decisions, redistribute funding and resource so high-need schools receive more of an equitable share, and school resource officers should share additional training in communication and conflict resolution. So, guys, what are your thoughts on these recommendations? Kawan, do you agree? Would you like to add anything to this?
Yeah, so I think these recommendations are very well, as we talked about. This has been an ongoing problem, but things such as redistributing the funding and resources can offer people, especially our youth, more opportunities as far as schooling and education, right? Because I believe personally, and you guys can also drop in the comments, that education is the key for our youth. Learning more, being able to expand our knowledge can increase wealth and success for the youth.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you guys want to learn about other issues that were raised that didn't make it into the agenda, visit www.nyc.gov/youth town hall. Shout out to the winner of the Amplify survey, Tylen Price. Tylen won a brand new Dell laptop. Make sure you complete the surveys to provide feedback to us, and who knows, you could win a laptop as well.
All right. So now let's take some time to look at the data on youth employment. We reviewed the research briefly created by DYCD's evaluation and the analytics team, as well as CUNY's youth to ask youth census data. You guys can drop your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what you guys think. about these recommendations. All right, so now looking at this chart, this graph represents the data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. What it shows is that white youth consistently have the lowest rate of unemployment. On the contrary, you can see that Black or African American youth consistently have the highest rate of unemployment. Equally interesting, in 2020, the employment rate of for Asian youth has spiked and is at the same level of Black youth. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know about you, but this is a clear sign that racism and race directly impacts the employment rate towards everyone. Now, when you think of youth employment, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? SYEP, yes, the Summer Youth Employment Program, which many of our youth do participate in during the summer. While SYEP is not only a pathway to economic equality, it is often the first job for most New York City youth. How many of you have ever participated in SYEP? I want to know. I know I did personally, and it was definitely my first job that I've had as a youth, and kind of brought me a lot of opportunities. So I want to get some feedback from you guys as well, if you guys participated in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, you know, SYEP and Work Learn Growth predominantly serve minority and low income youth. According to the 2017 Youth Employment Task Force, they report participants in SYEP/WLG said programs provided them with hard skills, including time management, financial management, and employer dress codes. Does anything stick out to you? Oh, I see a lot of people in the comments have participated in SYEP. Oh, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's good to see.
All right. So actually, last summer, DYCD partnered up with CUNY's Intergenerational Change Initiative, where young people conducted research with 416 of their peers. And those were their recommendations: fund summer jobs for all, improve upon the existing SYEP initiative in NYC, create youth that will help NYC, create youth jobs that will help in NYC become sustainable and more resilient, support NYC to develop their own cooperative businesses and addresses the young people's needs, offer work-based learning opportunities for all young people, including in high school, give young people ages 18 to 24 jobs, building affordable, sustainable housing in their neighborhoods. Are there any other things you guys in the audience would like to recommend? If so, put it in chat.
Yeah. Now, joining us are the moderators, including myself, who will facilitate the discussion for our Speak Up segment with the youth experts. Our moderators this afternoon are myself, like I said, and Miriam from the Youth Advisory Council. So thank you guys for joining us for this segment, and then we'll move on. So these are our experts on the screen.
So if our youth experts would like to introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I am Miriam, and I'm very excited to be here. This is a very important topic, and we have some pretty good experts here to talk with.
Yeah. So I also agree, Miriam. Youth employment is a major impact for us. I'm still blown away by the data. Our youth experts will be Arisha Miller, Osmael, Kylan, Kwek Rupp, and Mohammed Abrar.
If you have any questions for our experts, please drop it in the chat in all caps.
All right. So beginning with the questions. My first question will be directed to Arisha, if she is here. I don't believe Arisha is here at the moment, so Miriam, if you want to move on to the next question.
This question is for Ishmael. Were you surprised to see that Asian American youth employment increased in 2020?
I can't honestly say that I was surprised, just because of the amount of discrimination and racism that was being gated towards Asian Americans, and we've seen that a lot of people were getting hurt because they look Asian, quote unquote, and the virus supposedly came from China, and as a result, we all automatically said that they were the reasons that why we were in a pandemic, why we had to go on lockdown, and then a person in the highest office in our government actually did not aid in that, because they repeatedly called this virus the China virus, which, allowed people to be mean to Asian Americans. So it made sense to me that certain parents didn't want their kids to be working. And a lot of Asian American businesses went out of office as a result of the discrimination they were facing and lack of money they had to keep their businesses afloat. So, it didn't surprise me at all when we seeing Asian American unemployment go way up high when usually it's not as high. And in addition to that, I wanted to talk about how I personally experienced my friend being, discriminated because she was Asian before school closed, where she was wearing a mask because she was sick. And a lot of the students were laughing at her saying, "Oh, you have coronavirus and you're the reason why we're going through this," when that's simply not true. But because as a society, we allow a lot of this racism to happen and stuff like that, the people are afraid to work. They're afraid to do the things that they want to do now. Thank you.
All right. So thank you for sharing that information. So moving on to the next question. This question is directed to Kylan. Do you think youth should participate in paid internships / programs and be paid based on their financial status?
I mean, I think we can all say that youth should participate in internships and other programs. But as Elijah explained in the beginning, youth in low-income communities have the highest rate of unemployment. So we need to be supporting all youth participating in internships and programs to the fullest possible extent, but also prioritize our most vulnerable participants and support them financially. You can picture participating in SYP. It's a lot easier to give it your full heart and get the most benefit out of the program if you're not simultaneously worrying about where your next meal is coming from, or maybe that there's a job somewhere else that pays a little bit better, even if you are sacrificing some of the financial literacy and other skills that SYP is going to bring you. So we need to make sure that our youth are being supported to the fullest extent possible, especially youth that need a little bit more financial support.
Definitely. Thank you for that. And if you guys in the comments want to drop down what you guys think about that, you guys can as well. Hi, Arisha. We see that you joined. We'll get back to your question at the end. Mayim, if you want to move on.
Should networking, this question is for Mohammed. Should networking skills be implemented in programs, activities, and classrooms, since they can help students create opportunities for themselves?
I'm sorry, repeat the question. I missed it.
Should networking skills be implemented in programs, activities, and classrooms, since they can help youth create opportunities for themselves?
To that question, there's a lot of answers, but for me, is 100%, because network is one of the most important things that you're gonna need in life to be successful. Because you might not, if you don't have, let's say you have education, but you don't have networking or connection to any people that can get you a good job or land somewhere good financially or something, but you're holding the education, that's not helpful. But with networking, even if you struggle with education, you can get something out of someone or somewhere. So that's why networking is very important for youth and any other people, to be honest, just in general. It doesn't have to be just youth. At any point in life, you need networking to do anything in life, to be honest. That's what I think.
I definitely agree. It's very important to have a connection with someone else.
Give me 1 second as I pull up the next question. All right, so this next question again, is directed to Kylan. What can young people do to advocate for funding for youth employment?
Well, first, you can reach out to your representatives. So the mayor and the city council have to approve a budget, and that budget is going to have a set amount of funding for youth services. SYP and all, more broadly, the youth programming that we have. So those people represent you, and so they're going to listen to what you say and hopefully respond. But that being said, we also need to build in systems for youth across the city to have a real and genuine way to advocate and shape youth internships and more broadly youth employment. So for SYP, that might look like creating a specific branch within DYCD where youth voice is valued and has like a real power to it, whether that's a vote or something else, making sure that youth across the city are able to shape those programs that they're so indebted to.
Thank you for that.
This question, next question. This question is for Aisha and Kylie. Do you think that SYEP should be done by lottery or by need? Also, what recommendations do you have for as an alternative? Free, anyone could go first.
All right, so I think that it should be a need because for one, the sole purpose of the summer youth employment program is to help persons, help unemployed youths and people to, gain their first job and to have experience and all of these things. So if it's done by lottery, I think it defeats the purpose because, again, we're looking for something that has like a meaning, a value to somebody. And, if you don't really need it, it doesn't have that much meaning to you. So I think it should be done by need to help those who really need this initiative.
Yeah, definitely. Kylie, do you want to step in and give your own ideas?
Yeah, I mean, adding on, like, of course, it should, like, all of our slots should be going to the youth that need it the most, that don't have the other opportunities to have summer internships to create networks. But we also need to make sure that every single applicant has an opportunity to participate in SYP. We have the resources in our city to make sure that this is a universal program, and we need to make sure that it really is so that everyone who wants a summer internship is able to have it. But until then, we need to prioritize our most vulnerable youth and their communities and make sure that they are the ones that are getting these important opportunities.
Definitely.
So moving on to the next question. This question is directed to Ashmael and Kylan. So do you guys think that boxes such as race and ethnicity allow for stereotypes to take precedence in the application process? And what steps can we reduce as far as stereotypes come into play for the youth applications for employment?
So I'll go first. I do believe that boxes such as the race and ethnicity box actually do allow space for racism to occur, for discrimination and racism to occur, because why exactly do you need my race in order for me to apply for a job? It kind of makes no sense. I never quite understood it, and after doing some research, I learned why they do it for schools and stuff when you take an exam so that they can divide it amongst the races to see which one performed the highest and which one performed the lowest. That's a bit more understandable, but they don't do enough of a job to help the lowest performing races anyway, so it's kind of pointless. But
Looks like we have
Black, Hispanic, or whatever. And until those boxes are removed, I don't really have an indication that I didn't get a job because of my race or that I did get the job because of my race. I believe that those boxes should just be removed because it's pointless.
Definitely. And Kylan, if you want to chime in some of your thoughts or comments on that as well.
I think that's a really interesting perspective. I mean, like right now it's a lottery program. So that just means that, they're not really looking, there's no real application in terms, they're not really checking your race. So those boxes I don't know, I think they have a real value right now to make sure that SYP and other youth programs are serving the right communities. So we talked earlier about how important it is that these programs are serving low-income communities and communities of color, because these are the communities with the highest rate of youth unemployment. So I think in that way, like making sure that we know who's applying and who's getting these opportunities are really important. But I think it's also really important, like Osmael said, to figure out like if there are certain races are getting an advantage to get into these programs. So we need to be careful, and we need to make sure that everyone has an equitable chance in terms of getting these opportunities.
Yeah, and also before we move on to the next question, I just want to make something noted. As we did look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, as we did look at the graph, we did see that it was noted Black or Black and African American youth consistently have the highest rate of unemployment. So this kind of question goes with that. When, I don't know if you guys ever had an application for a job and you have to check off your ethnicity, it kind of does go hand in hand as to kind of why this is happening. And you guys did add some great examples on how that can be combated or handled in the future.
This question is from Mohammed and Arisha. How can young people turn their passion into a source of income?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question for me one more time?
How can young people turn their passion into a source of income?
To be honest, there is a lot of answer for that too. Depends on what you're doing. If what you're doing is just something you're doing for fun and it's not generating any money for you or anything, that's just a hobby. It's not really something that you should rely on. But if you can figure out a way to make that possible, like make whatever you're doing is making you money, that's something you can rely on. And the way you can do that is, look, these days everything is on the internet. Everything, and I mean everything, from getting a job to buying something, everything there. So you just have to figure out a way how you can take this advantage of technology and put your work to it and just go from there. There is no way that I can tell you like, hey, this is how you start, this is how you finish. You have to figure out that on your own, but you can go through stages where you fail, go through stages where you see success right away, but that's completely up to you how you go from there. That's what I think. People might have different opinions. That's it for me.
Definitely. Thank you for that, Mohammed.
Right. So, yeah. So, in my opinion, I'm gonna give you just the steps as to how I took my passion and created a business. I started my business with my passion at the age of 15, and in my case, I basically took my I took a different route as to what Mohammed was saying. At that time I didn't know about internet videos and all of these things, so my way is just the old school way of growing up through a family of entrepreneurs and so on. I think the steps are for you to first believe in yourself, believe in what you want to do. Totally listen. Listening is the most important part of all of this. You have to listen and just, it's just a pig telling, and you got to prepare to work. That's just it. Prepare to work, prepare to hear people's views, because everybody's going to have an opinion as to what you're doing. You have to create a marketing scheme. You have to sit down and just plan things. If you're not a planner, get used to it if you want to become an entrepreneur, especially when you're young and you're trying to just accomplish a lot. Me, for example, I don't like school, so I think the only other way out is for me to, be an entrepreneur. So that's exactly what I did. It's just, you have to create that entrepreneur mentality type thing. So What I can say is for you just to just learn. That's just it. I learned from people. I didn't have YouTube, so I just took it and I ran with it.
That's
Definitely.
amazing. I would like to ask both of you, what's your business? What's your passion that you turned into a business?
Okay, so I'm a cake decorator. I deal with all things sweet, all things treats. That's my field that I'm in. My business is called Royal Bakeria. It's on Instagram. It's royal_bakery_. You can check it out.
What about you, Mohammed? What's your business?
So I have honestly two, but what I mostly rely on is one, which is drop shipping. I'm a seller on Amazon where I sell stuff to people everyday, daily stuff that you can possibly think of. I buy it from somebody, I just ship it out to the customer directly. This is what I do, which brings me about like 35% profit off of every single sale that I make. And roughly about 10K a month in revenue that I'm building, which is 35% my profit, and the other is expenses and everything. That's it. And I also have 4 metro stores that I'm running personally as a 17-year-old managing 4 stores under somebody else who has over 175 stores. That's basically it. I have a team who I run it with, and that's it. That's what I do.
How did you both learn those skills? Like, in what ways did you learn the skills?
To be honest, I started working at a very, very young age. I'm 17 right now. I've been working for the last 4.5 years. I started in this electronic business, like started working at Boost first, and then carried my way, getting more experience, getting more skills over time. I caught up to this business pretty quickly, and over quarantine, I realized I'm not gonna have a source of income, which that's when drop shipping clicked in, realizing that there is another way that I can make money while being home, and that's where drop shipping came from. Afterwards, I had somebody call me and, hey, do you want to take over my stores? And that's how I started in Metro and doing dropshipping at the same time. As part time, I also do stocks as much as I can here and there. That's basically it.
Yeah, so as you can see from these two entrepreneurs, hard work and dedication is really needed if you want to make it. So there are definitely a lot of opportunities for the youth to become entrepreneurs, and we can see from Arisha and Muhammad, they're definitely doing their thing. I do want to kind of highlight a comment that I see right here from Daniela. So she said, you know, she recommends as an entrepreneur, if you want to start, we can see it on the screen as well, researching other businesses or organizations that specialize in the same thing that you're doing, right? So Arisha said she works with cakes and baking, things like that. I know one of her things were definitely doing research on other maybe cake businesses or bakeries out there, so she can see not only the competition or what else is being produced, but how can she kind of build her upon her ideas. As well as Muhammad, I know a lot of youth nowadays are doing drop shipping and online selling, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs on YouTube also doing the same thing. So just definitely getting other pieces of feedback is definitely a great way as an entrepreneur to see where to build and the next steps to take in your business. And this also coincides with the next question I'm about to ask. So this question is directed to Al-Shmail. So why do you think that youth of color should become entrepreneurs?
My answer to that question was actually why not? Because a lot of youth of color, when we grow up to learning to follow people. And a lot of the time, that's not what we're meant to do. A lot of the times, we have our own desire to go out and do our own thing, start our own business. But because we've been conditioned to follow orders, to be always under somebody else, we never even strive enough to go and start that business that we're well capable of doing. So I know for me personally, because of the career path that I want to take, entrepreneurship is not for me. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not a leader or anything. It just means that I'm not going to start out my own business because I want to go in the criminal justice field. But certain people, like Arisha, I believe, said that school is not her thing. Some people, school are not their thing. It does not mean that they're dumb or that they're less than. It just means that they're capable of doing something that school is not allowing them to do. Right? School sometimes can restrict you from doing what you really want to do. So because of that, I believe a lot of young people should, instead of, focusing on school and on the grades, because that's what's defining us right now, they need to break away from that habit and, start their own business, start doing their own things that they're passionate about. Because if you're not doing your own thing, you're never going to be truly happy. Working a 9 to 5 might be appealing to some, but to others, it's like, I want to blow my head out. And it's not good. It's not a good mindset to have when, you can have your own business, start at home, start small and have some friends help you and stuff like that. And, I also believe that youth of color need to support each other, right? Like when your friend has a business or something like that, you should help by reposting your friend's business or, buying something, be like the first person to purchase from your friend's business. And little things like that helps us achieve more in life.
Definitely. Thank you for the comment.
I agree with you, Ishmael. We all need to support each other. We're all on different paths, and we just need to explore what works for us best. This next question is for Mohammed. What advice would you give a young person that wants to start a business or is looking for work?
Looking for work would be volunteer, because look, a lot of people are looking for experiences, and when you go for an interview, the first thing you have to ask is how long have you had experience in this section of the job that you're applying for. When they say 0, immediately the interviewer, whoever is interviewing you, loses interest unless you have like a whole ton of information on your resume where it proves that you're qualified for the job. So get experience. And when you're looking for paid internships, they're very little, very few, and very limited. And so when you're asking for volunteering, it's asking somebody, hey, I'll volunteer with you, and I'll do this thing for you for 2 weeks in a row with no pay. They say yes, and you're getting experience from that. Use that to your advantage and go for the interview, right? And now they're gonna be like, all right, you have experience. We are able to see something in you that we can accept you for this job position. Basically, what I'm saying is, do as much as volunteering as much as possible. That's basically it. One of the most important things that you can receive.
Definitely. So Mohammed definitely just dropped some jewels on us on, advice about getting work. So like we talked about, SYAP was personally my first job that I had, I believe when I was 15 or 14. And just looking for work, you have to be motivated. Just like any other entrepreneur, you have to be motivated. Also, I know Arisha talked about making connections. Connections is a very notable thing that everyone should be doing, because as we all know the saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And who you know can get you into those avenues that you want to be in as a young entrepreneur. So moving on, we're going to ask, we're going to go back to Arisha's first question since she wasn't here. So according to the NYC Mayor's Office of Economic Opportunity, Black and Latina youth between the ages 16 to 24 years of age are more likely to be out of work and out of school compared to their white and Asian counterparts. What do you think the barriers are for young people of color?
So to that question, I actually have 3 points. The first one being stereotype. There is this thing that I guess it's from slavery. It has left a stain on people of color that we are below the average. And I as somebody of color, I've seen it so many times coming here from Guyana that they just look down on us. It's like we don't exist, in their world. So I definitely think that stereotype is one of the main concerns. It's just a negative stain on the entire group of people with of color. I think the second issue as it relates to that is poverty. It's generally, in my opinion, it's a systematic issue. It starts off with, again, the welfare system. That's why I said it's a systematic issue. The welfare system is supposed to be there to, uplift people and make them have a better position than what they're currently in. And as it looks right now to me, it's just designed to fail people of color. Because you see people that are there, they're so dependent on the welfare system that it makes them idle, lazy. It doesn't help them in any way. They live in the projects, they continue to live in the projects, nothing is getting better. And it makes that, what you would call it, like a census, like the category that you put them in, it's so stagnant that nobody's really developing. So I think poverty, stereotype. My last point would be the education system. You see so many additional programs and all these different things are given to schools that are in better areas and all of these things. And you don't see that same emphasis being placed on schools that are, in those, what you would term bad areas. And it's like a one-sided type of issue because how come they're getting that and we're not getting that? So how do you expect us to perform on the same level if we don't have the same type of energy put into what we have to do too? So those are my 3 points, my 3 barriers that I think are keeping people of youth, especially of color, down in the system.
Wow.
I wanted to add on to Arisha's point, if possible. So I do agree a lot that the school thing is a big issue. Not to say that we don't need school, because we do. It's just like school teaches us a lot of things, but a lot of things that we need to be taught for life is not taught to us. Like, I know how to solve the equation of a parabola, but I don't know what to put on line 4 of my W4 form. I have to call my dad to help me out with those kind of things. And, those are life skills, because paying taxes, it's either you pay them or you go to jail, and I don't have to solve a math problem in order to escape from jail. And sometimes it's like, I understand while we need certain subjects, we should also add certain life skills in there so that students are not discouraged from going to school once, and then are not discouraged from working because the working field is either too hard or too complicated for them to understand. We should have, because a lot of times people say school is what prepares us for life, right? But a lot of life skills, we have to learn them through making mistakes or having, parents teach us. And a lot of us are immigrants. A lot of our parents don't know what we know. A lot of our parents didn't grow up the way we grew up. So they don't have the answers to everything we need. So we have
Okay, seems like she was cutting out.
Learning from mistakes when they could actually learn and not make the mistake, and that stains us for the rest of our lives. I'm going a little bit. I'm sorry, did I cut off?
Yeah, you're cutting out every now and then.
I'm sorry about that. Might be my connection. But yeah, I was saying school needs to, upgrade their curriculum a little bit so they teach us more life skills and not just things we're going to need for the regions and then never again in our life.
I totally agree with you, Asmael. And excuse me. And I'm totally down with that. My whole thing is with systemic racism, specifically in school environments between school resource officers. And, you know, not everybody is getting taught these things. Like you said, a lot of our parents are not from here. They're from the Caribbean. They're from Puerto Rico. They're from Mexico. They're from other places that, you know, are not understanding the concept of what we have and what we are not being taught in school environments. Also, I would just like to say something about Arisha's point. Arisha, your second point totally stood out to me. I love how you just put I love how you just put empathy on that, and you know, you just get your point out across. So yeah.
Yeah, so this was definitely a great discussion. And you know, we were definitely highlighted on our entrepreneurs on how to kind of build your brands, reach out, make connections and things like that. One thing I want to do, since we do have a little bit of time, I want to take a notable question that I saw in the comments from Kayla Murray. Sorry if I butchered your name. Her question was, this is kind of directed towards, again, our entrepreneurs, I guess being Arisha and Muhammad once again. When you were progressing in your business, were there any obstacles you faced based on your race, gender, ethnicity, and stereotypes? And kind of what did you do to kind of build upon that? Either one of you can go first if you like.
I'll go first. I'll go first. To be honest, I didn't face anything at all because I never see anybody, right? It's all done through the screen, all done through the internet. I never have to leave the house. It's a passive income, so it really doesn't affect me at all. And not that I have received anything that has affected me towards my race or anything that I do. Nothing like that. So I really can't answer that question. So I'll pass it to the next person.
Definitely.
So in my case, I came from Guyana. So I had a lot of cases where people doubted me. First of all, when I was starting my business, I had family doubting what I wanted to do. And honestly, you just have to have a strong mindset with whatever you want to do. Like in my case, I just didn't care what people had to say. I knew I was going to get there someday. I'm still getting there. I'm not there yet because I'm not a millionaire, but I'm getting there. And in the business that I do, I deal with food, I deal with stuff people consume. There are going to be people that try to fight you. There are so many people that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Some people are really difficult. Some people would just give you an easy time. It's just having patience, know what you want to do, and just get it done. Some people you just have to ignore. You can't just control everything that comes out of people's mouth. You can't really, you can't control what they say. You can't control what they think. You just have to take it and put it in a positive way and to help build yourself up.
Those are very great answer. I really love that because we have to stay focused on what's important and ignore those that are not going to benefit our success. I have another question. What are some resources out there that teens of color can use to take their ideas and passion to start up a business and go to the next step? I take this question.
So, I'm just going to go ahead and answer this question and pass it off to someone else if they want to answer it. So some things that, you know, people can do for BIPOC teens to take their idea to the next level is, you know, of course, one, you have to be there, you know, show that you care, show that you are, you know, there for the person and give them support. Just take one step with them each way. Now, I know a lot of people don't have people in their life like that. And I'm gonna offer out a program that I have been through personally. It's called The Door. The Door is not only there for, you know, medical reasons. They're there. They support therapy. They have counselors. They have people who are there to take each step with you and is willing to see you grow your dreams into making it actual reality for you. I personally have experience with The Door. The Door is a great program that has helped me through my studies in school. They have helped me take my one step closer to my my medical career, and I have a dream that I would want to become a paramedic, and the door has been very helpful for that. They provide a lot of support. They provide a lot of people who are there for you, who are there to help you take one step up the way. Also, it's also a good chance. This is a good opportunity for you to like speak. And when I speak, I mean not like as a therapist, but like have someone safe and confident to speak with who is there to help you. Because during a lot of these steps, BIPOC teens could get into a state of mind where they feel like they're alone in this. And I'm trying to make everything, as what's the word? I'm trying to make everything as safe and as fast as possible for those teens to make their steps. And I'm just gonna pass it on to anybody else who wants to add on.
Yeah, I wanted to add on a little bit to Elijah's point. I think the most important thing to do for people of color who want to start businesses and stuff like that is network. And that means, not being as shy, putting yourself out there, going to talk to people. And if you have to be the one that starts the conversation, start the conversation and make sure that when you leave that conversation, they remember your name so that when they see you somewhere, they'll support you and stuff like that. And also, I'm not sure of how many programs there are out there available, like free programs that are available to all students. But I know for me and some of my friends, we've actually looked into something like, it's called the Boys and Girls Club, right? Everybody can become a member of the Boys and Girls Club, and it's for teens specifically and younger kids, and it helps because they always have different resources that you can join. Like over the summer, I didn't get to do SYEP, but I did get to do an internship with Columbia University, which was really cool because I want to attend Columbia. And things like that, when you meet people who work in things such as Microsoft and Goldman Sachs, you get to meet those people and they talk to you, and then now you have more people and more companies to add on to your baseline. You can say, I worked with this person, I work with that, and it shows that your thing is actually legit, and you're not just some random kid doing random things, that you have connections behind you.
Yes, Osmael, I totally agree. And that was also another organization that I meant to call out, the Boys and Girls Club. I personally have not been to the Boys and Girls Club. I personally been to the Boys Club. And, they also give you good support and good opportunities for you to start off your career as an entrepreneur. And so I think we should just keep that in mind. So if anybody else has questions, put it in chat in all caps. Let's move on.
Also, other programs you could look into are DYCD funded programs. There's a program, Ladders for Leaders. It provides employment training, internship for students looking to get that experience. And for students who want to go into CUNY colleges, there's a program called SICK. It helps you with financial aid, it helps you with counseling, and a lot of stuff. So look into the SICK program and look into more DYCD programs like Ladders for Leaders. That could be really, really useful.
Yeah, so as you can see, our youth has had many inputs about programs that are available to kind of higher education and learning. Elijah mentioned the Door. I have been a member of the Door for the past 3 years. It is a very great organization. And I see a lot of other organizations that our youth had been accepted into that has elevated their career. I know, Kylan, if you wanted to jump in, if you had anything to add.
I think everyone on this panel has shown how important and crucial these programs are and how important it is to invest in youth programming through the DYCD and other services. But we really need to make sure that these programs are there for all the youth that want to participate in them, because they can really take a passion and create it into a career. It can lift you off into the next stage of your life. That's something that should be available to everyone who wants to. So we really need to invest in these programs.
Definitely. And it was such a great panel discussion. I want to add one more question, if I may, It was from, I believe, Roxy NYC. She made a comment, and her question was, should schools be expected to teach life skills like we talked about? Should they be expected to teach life skills, or should that be something that should be taught at home or other outside programs? I know, Ashmael, you were talking about school and how sometimes they don't teach you everything that you need to kind of succeed as an entrepreneur in life. So what are some things that schools should do to combat this?
So I do think that schools need to teach us things like we need to have, like when you're in high school, it would be wise to have a sort of class that's like an entrepreneurship class for those students who are not necessarily, just academic bound, who are interested in other things, because those resources are not available free to us. Actually, if you want to take those classes, you would most likely have to pay, unless you're watching something like this. You have to go out of your way and pay, and not all of us have the money to do that. I know that for a fact. So if we were to, take a semester of high school and make it towards, let's do this for those who are interested in entrepreneur, or those who are not interested in college but want to go to trade school or things like that, or a class where it's like, like for economics. I'm not sure if we learned that because I haven't finished economics yet, but show us how to file our taxes and stuff like that, so we have those kind of that baseline to begin our life on instead of just being thrown out into life and not knowing what to do and stuff like that.
Wow, those were very amazing tips. Thank you all so much for contributing to this discussion, for the advice, the research that you've left for us. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your experience with us. We are really grateful for it. Thank you.
Yeah. So now it's time for a quick temperature check. That was obviously such a great discussion. We had so much input from our youth and people in the comments that jumped on. I want to also say thank you guys to the comments for kind of viewing this and adding your input. And what were you guys' favorite parts? Wait, hold that thought. Actually, if you guys can see on the screen, we do have a QR code, and we would like you guys to pull out your phones, scan it, and let us know how you're doing. This way we can have your feedback, and you guys can kind of share your thoughts and let us know. What do you guys think? Ma'am, if you want to move on.
Next, we have Expression with Purpose. Welcome, Nia Epstein from Children of Promise.
Hi. As she said, my name is Nia Eckstein, and the poem I'll be reading is Black Economy. Okay. I live in America, the land of dreams and strong economy, where it seems like life is a nice story. This is a lie. America corrupted, violence erupted, in the economy plastic is tragic. It's a tragic truth for the white man to be on top of the black man, but it's true. In the American economy, the white man is on top, but the black man is on top, but still lower than the white woman. But who is at the bottom? A black woman. The one that does it all. She stands tall, but still feels to her certainty as the fall of this ratchet economy. Poor black woman, so strong, so bright. You need to continue to fight. Change your dreams, overcome the challenges, make your truth heard, do more, say more, because everyone's ears are too wide, their eyes are too narrow, that they know they can see, they know they can hear, but the economy is so unequal. It's inequality that could be changed, you see. See, all we have to do is join together, build a strong economy to rise beyond and all, but does this economy really stand tall? This dirty economy, the economy that has inequality? How can we beat this inequality with our strategy, with the army that we're trying to build? How are you going to look at me and say that I'm not worth every single penny that I have made? But still, you call me dirty, you call me worthless, but I make more money and I have more purpose. But this economy doesn't support me. It supports people that don't deserve what they do. They don't deserve what they have either. but I'll keep on pushing through. Thank you.
Nia, that was such a powerful piece. Thank you. I have a question for you also. Why do you think that youth employment is so important?
I think youth employment is important because, I mean, being a part of like summer youth, I go to Children of Promise, so in the summer they usually allow the teens to have jobs. And so I was blessed to have a job in the summer, so I had, I had experience, and it gives children experience so that in the future when they go into the actual, employment industry, that they're able to navigate throughout their businesses. It helps you to get your feet wet. It also helps you to reach levels on your resume, because now I can put down that I was a summer counselor on my resume, so that for a future job to be an actual counselor with actual children, it would be a great job. So yeah.
Definitely.
I definitely agree. Thank you. Our next segment is called Dropping Gems. We have great seasoned experts who will be dropping some serious gems. If you like what they are saying, please be sure to drop a gem in the comment, all caps.
Definitely. And now welcoming our seasoned experts. Welcome Aaron Daly, Chief Operating Officer at Brooklyn Laboratory Charter Schools.
Daphne Montanez, Assistant Commissioner for Youth Workforce Development overseeing SYEP.
Dayanari Del Rio, Co-Director of the New Economy Project.
Matt, Vice President, Education and Employment Services.
And Monica Grant, author and founder of Young Boss Media.
If you have any questions for our experts, please be sure to drop it in the chat in all caps.
Yeah. So before we begin, first I want to remind everyone that we do have a lot of questions, so we will practice Elmo respectively. Our first question is for Matthew. According to the New York City Mayor Office of Economic Opportunity, Black and Latina youth between the ages of 16 to 24 are more likely to be out of work and out of school compared to their white and Asian counterparts. What do you think are the barriers for young people of color?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I think it's a very layered question. I think there's a lot of barriers. I think we can't look at that question in an ahistorical context. And so what I mean by that is we have to look at the history that has evolved and why we've arrived at a point for such a disparity. Quite simply, if you look at the history, and I'm not even going to start, we could look at slavery, right? That's what a lot of we would point to, but I think it's deeper than that. You look at some of the policies that were enacted post-slavery in Reconstruction. You look at things like the Homestead Act of 1862, where there was legalized acquisition of land, but it was only offered to white men. And you look at everything that has taken place since then. There was an unfair disadvantage that started everything. And so since then, I'll just fast forward to a modern context, everything from experiences of, KKK, police brutality, unfair guidance counselor ratios when you look at the school system, disproportionate rates of incarceration and sentencing, the fact that Black and Latinx students are more likely to be suspended from school for equivalent violations as other races, on down to something that some of the youth panelists, which were really amazing, I have to take my hat off to, mentioned, which is the concept of implicit bias, which is very real. Attitudes that employers or teachers may harbor towards their own students and the implications therein. And then on down the stereotype threat, like what are the impacts of that implicit bias on the sort of double consciousness that young people are having to think through and navigate throughout their experiences, whether they're pursuing employment or just education every day in the classroom. So I think there's a lot of barriers that have a very historical context and unfortunately have lingered into today in spite of the progress we've made. I'll pass it to my colleague.
Speaking of stereotypes, for Dayanira, were you surprised to see that the Asian American youth unemployment increased in 2020?
Yeah, I think that the youth panel addressed some of that. I think that, we're seeing in all kinds of ways the disparities in terms of how the pandemic has played out, in terms of the economic downturn, who's, you know, been affected the most, who are our frontline workers, and so on. So it's not, unfortunately, surprising. But I think that some of the solutions that were put forth make a lot of sense. And I think that there are organizations, fortunately, around New York City, in some of this youth-led work especially, is so inspiring to address some of those disparities at the root.
Definitely.
All right.
Oh, if you wanted to add?
Yeah. No, I was gonna be asking the next question.
Okay.
Okay. So this question is now for Daphne. Should youth participating in paid internships and programs be paid based off the financial status?
Yeah, so, you know, within our programs here at DYCD, we are very intentional about reaching young people who are underserved, at risk, and vulnerable. And we think it's very important for young people within these underserved communities to have access to opportunities, not only to gain work experience and necessary skills, but we also know that earning a wage is important to them and their families. And we also know that there is a real disparity with young people who may have access to networks, go to the quote unquote right schools, know the right people to gain internships at companies that traditionally bring on board young people for free. From all over the country, even all over the world, to participate in coveted internship opportunities. And because they have the means to take on an unpaid opportunity, shutting out a lot of young people who just don't have that choice and yet still want the opportunity to gain a valuable work experience and network at these companies. And so, you know, at DYCD, we have done a really intentional job of not only serving young people from communities that need these services the most, but also working with New York City-based private sector companies to participate more within our programs. And to give you a sense of how we've done that, back in 2014 in SYEP, we had just 28% of our work sites were within the private sector. And in 2019, we grew that number to 46%. And it's not only the number of work sites, we're very intentional in terms of the diversity of companies and industries that took part, such as tech, technology, STEM-based industries, professional services, real estate. And that work continues. And we think it's valuable not only for our young people to gain access and to help level the playing field and make it more equitable for young people to get these opportunities. But I think it also serves New York City and businesses as well to have a very diverse workplace, diversity of backgrounds, not only when it comes to race, but from gender identity, you name it. And I really do feel that, you know, overall, no young person should make the choice between having to work to pay bills and help contribute to their family, or gaining an access to a work opportunity.
Wow, that was really great. This question is for Aaron. Should networking skills be implemented in programs, activities, and classrooms, since they can help students create opportunities for themselves?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. That's a great question. And absolutely, networking should be a part of academic institutions' education, should be a part of programs. Networking is a skill that for many of us has resulted in job opportunity, has resulted in increased salaries and other things. I often recall me being a prep school student and being able to network with people who had money and who had access and who had the means. There's someone I went to prep school with that offers me a job every single year. Just based off of the hard work, the dedication, but also the networking and the respect that we've gained towards one another over the years. So it's a very strong skill that should be taught at every level to the youth. I think it's very important that we take a strong stance in making sure we have a clear curriculum that people could use to teach networking skills to our youth today.
Yeah. Moving on to the next question. This is directed to Monica, Matthew, and Dainaria. What can young people do to advocate for funding for youth employment?
Hey, I'll go. So first, I want to say thank you for having me onto this program. I think this is beautiful what you're doing, and I'm kind of adult, kind of big sis auntie, might be somebody's mama at the same time. So I'm kind of in a mix where you can listen to me, and also I'm in the field as well. What can you do to advocate for themselves? Organize. You know, that's the basis of everything for social justice. Organizing across the board. And one thing is, I love the next generation. I love the youth, because the youth looked at my generation and saw how we went to school, we got the student loans, and we graduated with nothing. And they are smart. They know that they can go to Google. They know that they can have all these social networks and actually organize. And that's one of the beautiful things that we saw this past year, of just really people standing up for what's right all across the board globally. And before there was Corona, there was always a pandemic of youth unemployment in the hood. And we're talking about in Africa, you go to African nations and 80% youth unemployment. And so it's not just here in America, it's not just here in New York. There's so many people that are really struggling in low-income communities. And so we all have to come together to really advocate, but then also figure out what are the solutions, because, you know, we can't just lean on the government. We have to also come together in communities and figure out what are the solutions for our own communities, for our roads, for our infrastructure. And, you know, that's where the money is. If you want to be an entrepreneur, find out, you know, how to make money in infrastructure, you know, because we need water, we need energy, we need lights, we need all these things. And the young minds, the young generation can do it at the palm of their hand. And so I love the next generation. And so just be active and be vocal. And to piggyback on what the brother said, just about networking, relationships are everything. You know, if you want to get anywhere in life, you can't be afraid to get into rooms where you feel like you don't fit in. And so I'm an activist, but I learned the most when I was in a room with Steven Schwartzman. He said, money is unlimited. And then after I heard that, I read all these books about investment banking. And so now I can be in a room of investment bankers and still be an activist and still have that conversation of, where's my money? Where's my money? So don't ever be afraid to be in rooms where it doesn't look like you. And so that's what I would say for the youth, is just do everything. Do not stop pushing, you know, your finger, and do not stop pushing the needle, because that's what we need. We cannot stop, you know. So that's my 2 cents. I just want to say thank you for having me, and any more questions, I'm here for.
Definitely. Miriam, if you want to move on to the next question.
I was going to ask, does Matt have anything to add to Monica?
Sure, yeah, I'll piggyback. I think a lot of what Monica said was really spot on. I think just the additional thing I would say is organize and then join movements. I think there's a lot of movements that exist, like Campaign for Children comes to mind just as one opportunity whenever there's threats to funding, you know, opportunities to organize with other folks that have similar interests, and even, you know, COVID notwithstanding, but like heading to Albany to really experience what it's like being part of a protest and being part of really advocating for what you deserve as young people. I would also just say, I know that DYCD commissions a lot of youth advisory councils. So leadership councils for young people are great ways to advocate and just discuss, share ideas, and strategize. You know, to Monica's point, y'all got the creativity on lock right now, right? Nobody my age is going to tell you what to do. And I think, you know, your brilliance is a gift unto itself and is an asset. And I think it's all about kind of galvanizing that brilliance together in a collective form, that nobody needs to operate in a silo. But the beauty of what I'm seeing that young people do is just what's happening right now. All of y'all on this panel is just amazing. And the transformative power you hold is probably more than you're even aware of in this moment. So just don't give up and just know what you want and keep your eyes on that prize.
Absolutely, 100%. And I would just want to add that, I think talking to your elected officials, talking to people in power when it comes to funding for summer youth and other jobs is huge. And you all are already doing that, telling your stories, speaking out from personal experience. And there's nothing that's more effective than that. So like everyone else has been saying, I'm just so impressed by how organized you all are already and what you're doing through this platform. I just want to mention also, New York City is home to one of the biggest movements for businesses that are worker-owned. So worker-owned cooperatives, and it's, just a different model of thinking about entrepreneurship and sort of just employment. And, we just encourage people to look into those resources as well. This is where people come together and the workers are the bosses. So it's a, sort of a one of the many ways that groups around New York City are promoting cooperative economic development, including for people who are left out right now from mainstream jobs in other parts of our economy.
Definitely, I definitely agree. This next question is for Daphne. Why is there a lottery for the SYEP?
Yes, so as you know, SYEP has basically been an institution here in New York City, started back in 1963, and essentially has been the go-to for young people in the city to have the opportunity to gain a summer job. And with that, it's extremely popular, and every year we receive countless numbers of applications and more applications than we do jobs. And in order to ensure fair and equitable distribution of our slots, we utilize an online lottery. So essentially everyone who submits an online application, they are selected via a lottery. And so honestly, it is the fairest, most transparent way in order for us to identify and actually select participants for SYEP. And, unfortunately, we know each year we do hear from young people who have applied and were not selected. And, we certainly understand that frustration. But in years past, well before the institution of an online system, everything was paper-based. And there was a lot of room for maybe someone getting an opportunity ahead of someone else, and criteria that really could not be counted as fair and transparent. So that's why the lottery was instituted. That said, with the 2019 model, in addition to the community-based slots that are selected via lottery, we also have a number of options that are dedicated to young people who live in public housing, who are what we deem vulnerable youth, either runaway and homeless youth, those that are in the foster care system, to name a few, or those that are justice involved. We also have a specialized program working with a number of New York City public schools as well. And within each of those options, they do not go through a lottery. If they qualify, they are recruited by our community-based organizations to participate. And so that's just a further opportunity for young people, particularly those in those vulnerable populations, to have an opportunity to take part in SYEP.
Definitely, and I just wanted to add, thank you again, Ms. Montanez, for that, because youth such as myself, when I did work in SYEP a couple of years ago, I didn't understand why there was a lottery. In my opinion, being a young teenager, I thought it was unfair, just pick a name out of a basket, but you kind of cleared that up as to the amount of people each year who do apply for these programs, and that is the fairest way to kind of handle that. So thank you. Moving on to the next question. This is directed to Daphne again and Aaron. Do you think that the boxes such as the race and the ethnicity box allow for stereotypes to take a precedence in the application process? And what steps can we take to reduce stereotypes in youth application employment?
Matt, do you want to go first? Should I can.
I think you should start.
Okay, I will start. So yes, I think this was discussed in the youth panel, and their insights I think are spot on. There certainly does exist a lot of inherent bias as it relates to you know, having demographic information on an application or a resume. That said, I know almost every employment application that I've ever completed did request that information. And I know for many organizations, they have to track that information. If you're a public or government organization, for instance, you have to report back to ensure that you're complying with affirmative action laws, for instance. And for a private company, they use that data to inform their hiring practices. What I will say is that I think there's definitely, particularly since last year with the protests following the death of George Floyd, the Black Lives Matter movement, that there is definitely more awareness around the impact on institutional racism and bias in our society. And I know that I have heard from, or I've seen from many corporations that they're taking stock at their own internal operations, how they're hiring, similar to what I mentioned earlier, the importance of having diverse voices out in within their workplace. So what we're doing at DYCD is really working at the government level in introducing the opportunity for these companies to work with our young people, to work with young people here in their own backyard, working within the who live in the 5 boroughs, who have so much to contribute and are not always given the opportunity to participate in some of these coveted internship programs that they hold. And so, again, as I mentioned, we've been working on increasing the number of internship opportunities within a variety of sectors and expanding those opportunities. And we think that that's very important. And I think the more exposure that companies have to working with young people, particularly young people of color, they'll see the value and how much they contribute to the workplace, and will hopefully start to make it a practice that becomes just general and won't necessarily need us or the government to really help push that along.
I think Daphne really, summed it up well. What I would add is that if you are, applying to a job that is going to stereotype you based off your name or your ethnicity or race, then you probably don't want to be working there anyway, right? We should be proud of who we are as Black and brown people, and we want to work for organizations that we're not going to have to prove ourselves day in and day out. And so it's not a place that you probably want to work. But I had this conversation probably a week ago with one of my mentors who's a Black male in the charter school world, and said, Aaron, it is the Black and brown people's time. Due to George Floyd, due to other racial inequities, people are really taking stock and looking at their companies and their organizations and making sure that it is representative of the people that it serves. And so at Brooklyn Lab and at other charter schools across the city and the state, they're truly working to become anti-racist organizations. And they're working to make sure that, the people who are working with us, our board, our senior leadership team, really represent the communities that we serve.
Alrighty, so thank you so much, Aaron, for answering that. So we actually have to enforce Elmo now. Enough, let's move on. So if we could just move on to the next section.
This question is for Dayanara. What is financial justice?
Thank you for that question. And I'm going to steal Elmo for our own meetings, work meetings. It's a nice tool. Well, so I think people have heard of, there's a couple of terms that sometimes get conflated. So like financial education is one and financial justice is another. And I think, simplistically, you can say that financial education, you can understand as sort of providing information and tools to people to navigate our financial system. Whereas financial justice is more about work to change the system. So for our organization, right, we fight for financial justice, and we're fighting for an economy that works for all. And, you know, when you think about economic justice, it's really about making sure that people and communities have the resources that they need to not only survive, but thrive. Healthy, safe housing, truly affordable housing, jobs that pay living wages, access to food and, you know, other vital needs, education and childcare. So that's kind of a, you know, part of what you might envision thinking about economic justice. Finance is really, it's part of the economy, and what it refers to is really the way that money flows through our economy to support all of these things or not, right? And so like many other parts of our economy, our financial system, which includes banks and credit unions and check cashers and pawn shops and the laws that govern all of these things, right? And that dictate what our rights are, you know, that is all part of our financial system. And as in so many other parts of the economy, it's unequal. And we see it play out by neighborhood, by race, where if you live in a predominantly white or upper income neighborhood, you have lots of access to banks, to other services that you need to be able to manage your day-to-day life, you know, pay your bills, cash checks, save money, borrow. And if you live in a lower income neighborhood of color, you have very few banks, and you have lots of check cashers and pawn shops and places where you can easily lose, you know, 10% or more of your income every year just paying fees to access your own money. So that's kind of a snapshot of how financial justice or injustice plays out at the sort of individual or household level. But we think about it also in terms of communities and neighborhoods, and how access to capital is just critical if you want to have thriving neighborhoods, if you want to have the ability to start or sustain a business that provides local jobs and things that the community needs, if you want to create safe and affordable housing and you know, many other things. So, you know, you can think about finance as really shaping, you know, in many ways the world we live in. So we fight for financial justice as a matter of combating racial inequality in our economy and exposing the way banks and other entities and some of the policies that our government has instituted over years have perpetuated segregation and poverty in New York City and beyond.
Thank you for that. And moving on, this next question is directed to Aaron and Dayanari again. And if any youth is under the live watching, I want you guys to definitely pay attention to this next question, because it deals with financial literacy and definitely can bring you to the next steps if you think about entrepreneurship or any other avenues. So the question is, what are credit unions and why should they be a part of young POC financial education?
Yeah, credit unions are very similar to banks. They're financial institutions, but the main difference between a credit union and a bank is that credit unions are not-for-profits. And they usually go a little bit further and beyond than what a typical financial institution offer. They usually offer lower rates on loans and credit cards. They're more forgiving on qualification standards. They have higher rates on savings accounts. They're personalized. They have personalized credit programs. They usually take in a lot of and take on a lot of educational to the community. They're also run by its members. With a volunteer board. So they're usually much more forgiving and thoughtful in the people that they allow opportunity to. And credit unions often serve the community that they're located in. I myself belong to a credit union. And when I was in my early 20s looking to improve my credit, it was a great place to go and get educated, but also be given lines of credit.
Yeah, and I'll just add a couple of things. My first job out of college was working for a national organization that was supporting neighborhood activists that were starting or had already created credit unions in, you know, border towns between the U.S. and Mexico in the Deep South as part of civil rights struggles. And, you know, there's really a social justice move, you know, they're really rooted in social justice movements where people were locked out of banks and other kinds of institutions, government programs, and they came together and pool their money together to create their own institutions that the communities can own. So that is what a credit union is at its heart. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of credit unions: AT&T credit union, municipal credit union. I want to put in a plug for community development credit unions, which are also nonprofit, owned by their members. I'm on the board, for example, of the credit union that I'm a member of, where I have some accounts. And those community development credit unions actually have a focus on helping people in low-income neighborhoods and communities of color that banks have redlined to save money, and they only reinvest their money back into their local community. So it's another aspect of it, is that you're making sure that your money, what you're saving, is getting put to use in your neighborhood to help others succeed.
Wow, that was amazing information. Thank you for that. This question is directed to Matt and Aaron. How can we expand communications to ensure opportunities are accessible to more youth and those with greater needs, such as disadvantaged or disconnected youth?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think that's really important. I think you have to think about, and my boss at Henry Street Settlement uses this term very often, but he uses the term land, sea, and air. And his point, we actually added underground. But the analogy is basically to speak to the fact that, you know, you got to think about different ways of reaching different folks. And accessibility is the thing that you have to keep in mind. And so, you know, one mode of communication, let's just go with email because it's probably the most popular. While it might catch, you know, a broad range of different young people, you know, that presupposes that you have access to a smartphone or a device, a computer, et cetera, that you're readily checking. And so you got to think about other modes of communication. It could be text, it could be snail mail, but then it's also expanding to, like, who are the stakeholders? We've all heard it takes a village to raise a child. I think that village, you really need to think of who are the members of that village. If the village isn't keyed in on what's going on and what the different opportunities are, then there's a really strong chance that a young person that's part of that village, and really you could look at the village as their network, that young person might potentially miss out on an opportunity that really could have changed their life. And so I'm always cognizant, and I think about the ways that we communicate, but also who we're communicating to. So not just sending it out to community-based organizations and sharing information like that with CBOs and schools, but then like tenant association presidents, you know, your community advisory board, the PTA, community education councils. There's a whole bunch of different groups who have a vested interest in making sure that information around opportunities is communicated well and effectively. And we've got to think about all those different folks that are part of that village, so to speak, when we're looking to share opportunities.
Yeah, I wanted to add quickly to Matt's comments. And I think what's really important is you have to meet people and meet our students where they are. I often talk about in our organization, like, we need a chief hood officer, someone that knows the community, someone that knows the neighborhood, someone that's going into the neighborhood and spreading the message is really important. So I think meeting students and youth where they are and spreading that message and getting it to them is going to be really important.
Definitely. Thank you again for answering those questions. Because we're running a little bit out of time, we're going to just jump to the last question. And this is directed to Monica and Matthew. What advice would you give a young person that is looking to start a business? Maybe some pointers of how to kind of start. I know we talked about financial literacy. Maybe they would have to take out a loan if they're starting a big business. Kind of where should they start?
You're muted.
Yeah.
Oh, Matt can go first. I want to hear what he has to say. Because I'm a little rough. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm rough. So I want to hear what Matt has to say.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, full disclosure, I do not have my own business as an entrepreneur, but I think that's also an interesting commentary. For me, I always think of, you know, I'm full of adages, right? But necessity is the mother of invention. So from a business perspective, I try to think about a need, and myself being skewed more towards social enterprise, you know, in other words, a business that might have, you know, social dividends and, you know, bring about some positive change in society. I always think about what are the needs that exist. And so for a young person that's really thinking about a business, and I was so inspired by the youth panel earlier, my jaw, I had to pick it up after listening to some of the things that were shared. But when you're thinking about a business, you want to think about a need. You want to think about how I can fill a gap that might exist. And hopefully it's aligned with your passion. But at the same time, as was mentioned earlier, you want to do your diligence and research and make sure you've really looked at what is the competition, what am I getting into, what is my business proposal's timeline, long term, short term. A lot of businesses are not profitable in the short term. So you have to think about having the capital up front, or, dipping into a credit union or exploring different opportunities like that to supplement and support your first, exploration into starting a business. That's just some of my early thoughts. But I'd love to hear more from Monica, just being somebody who's an entrepreneur and having more of a seasoned perspective.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. So I've been an entrepreneur for, I guess, over 15 years. I was an entrepreneur as a kid. I always just had it in me. I was advocating for entrepreneurship as a community organizer. I knew that, as I'm knocking on doors, we can go to our mayor, we can go to our elected officials, but there's also work that needs to be done economically. I went to school for business. And as I'm knocking on doors across the nation, working for the union, I could see how the Internet of Things was changing how people operated. I knew that automation was coming. I knew that we couldn't blame India for taking our jobs anymore. The whole economy was changing, and not enough people were speaking about it. That's why I founded my company, Young Boss Media, so I could start creating content around that. So speaking about communication, my company is for millennials who are going through that transition of having a job and now needing to start a business, and not necessarily like the YouTube stars that are hopping out of Lamborghinis, but I know a lot of people that can't get a job because they got felonies, because they were locked up, or just nobody's hiring because you're Black, because you're brown, right? And so how do we bring these resources to our communities? And I found a way to do it through media. I haven't worked a job for 5 years. I've been self-sustaining by bringing in social media and media marketing to nonprofit organizations and to just people that, want to rock with me, want to rock with my brand. And I think you have to find out, one, what are you good at and what are you really passionate about? And then where can you fill the need, right? And so what Matt was saying was so on point. You have to find where you create value for somebody. And then you find out, all right, how much are you willing to pay for it, right? That takes time. You have to be willing to be broke. If you're a youth, you're going to be broke regardless. So like, if you want to start a business, don't think about, I have to be a millionaire when I'm 25. You can be, but think about the long range, because we're talking about generational wealth and really overcoming obstacles that our ancestors have, gone through. And so think about the long game, and also think about, poverty has created mental health issues. It has created poverty in relationships. And so like, you're not just repairing your bank account, you're repairing your relationship with your family, you're repairing your relationship with yourself, self-love. You cannot be rich if you don't love yourself. You cannot be rich if you're beefing with everybody, if you're hating on everybody. It doesn't work like that. You really have to be in a spirit of abundance to really be out here and prosper. If you want to take care of your community, like, you have to come from a loving place, not I'm gonna get rich and then I'm gonna shine on y'all and I'm gonna ball on y'all. That don't work. So we have to change the way we think about wealth and money, and then create from a space of like, how do I serve? That's the best type of entrepreneur. How do I serve? And I promise you, if you come from that aspect of creating value, people will always find a way to give you money. I ain't been broke. And so like, I'm not the one to tell you to sit down and write a business plan. Listen, that'll happen. You can go get your MBAs and do all that formal stuff. But if you can find a way to add value into your community, there will always be a budget that can slide you in. I can promise that. So that's all I have to say about that. But like, create value and just keep doing your thing and stay inspired. I think that's the biggest thing. Do not give up. And also expect for it to be rough. That's the greatness of your story. If it's easy, nobody wants to hear your story. But if you can actually make it through the challenges, we all go through challenges. It's going to be rough, but you can overcome it every single time because people before you have, and you're opening doors for more people. So just keep going, keep doing it, and keep learning, keep growing.
I love that. I love what you said so much. The idea of self-love and purpose and values. I really love that. Thank you so much for being here, for educating us, and for sharing your experiences and knowledge with us. Kawan, did you get anything from that discussion?
I definitely got a lot of impactful information. Being a young person, also having a business, it was definitely great to hear everything that you guys kind of shared with us. Monica, you kind of everyone's saying in the comments, preach, preach, because he was definitely dropping gems about how to start your business and how to kind of just be there for yourself, kind of engage with everyone around you. We talked about earlier networking, finding people who has the same values as you, surrounding yourself with people of a likewise mindset. That can get you to definitely where you need to be in the future. And also definitely some other inputs. I know Ms. Montanez, she talked about SYEP and kind of the process with that. I didn't know that I didn't know that SYEP had kind of that whole background to it. Me just being a young kid thinking it's unfair that there's a lottery, but understanding the bigger picture and the opportunities need to be generated throughout NYC. So that's definitely what I got. And we definitely appreciate the seasoned experts for coming on the chat, definitely speaking to our youth, because we definitely all appreciate it. Thank you guys again.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right, now moving on. What I want you guys to do now, if you guys can see on the screen, we do have that QR code again. So what I need you guys to do, take out your phones. It doesn't matter if you have an iPhone like me, Android, doesn't matter. Please scan that QR code because we need your feedback. These town halls are for us, and the agenda is to represent our priorities. It only takes 2 minutes. The link can also be found in the comments. So if you go in the comments right now, you also see the link there. Please provide your feedback. Let us know how we did. Let us know what you guys want to see. And there we can move on and build together. So in the end, we definitely hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. The next town hall will be about gender justice plus LGBTQ rights. So if you're interested in participating in future town halls, please email DYCD Communications and drop your email in the comments. Like I said, guys, we definitely appreciate everyone coming, everyone talking, everyone's feedback, because youth is important, and the youth is the next steps to empowerment, education, and all of those things play a part in today's society.
Oh, I was muted. All right, so for this workshop, we partnered with Brooklyn Labs Charter School and CUNY Intergenerational Change Initiative, Children of Promise, and Henry Street Settlement, Madison Square Boys and Girls Club, New Youth Leaders, Truly You, and New Economy Project, and of course, Young Boss Media. You can find their information on our website, www.nyc.gov/youth town hall.
Okay. And we also have several resources for young people. So definitely be sure to visit the website. Make sure you guys share it. And also FYI, SYEP applications are launching in March. So stay tuned. I know we talked about SYEP during the whole talk. So if any youth are watching, please stay tuned into that for SYEP applications. If there are any other resources that you would like us to include on the next town hall, please do not hesitate to email DYCD Communications. They listen to you. They want your feedback. They want to know how to improve. Next questions to ask, because like we said again, the youth is important.
Of course. Also, guys, be sure to register for the personal branding workshop hosted by the Lit Network. And thank you guys for joining us. Look out for the information on our social media pages. Follow us at NYC Youth on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
All right. Thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Thank you.